Hello everybody, welcome back to the classroom. So for today, we're going to be doing some very fun stuff today. We're going to be making a moving platform and some pickups. So let's just jump back into what we started from the last episode. We just had this little character controller, and we had a little guy that moves around on the screen. He jumps, does a double jump, and we had the sprite editor and all that. So for today, we're going to be doing a moving platform to start off with. So to start off with that, let's jump into our scene view, and we're going to start with creating an empty game object. We're going to name this moving platform master. This is just going to be the whole parent object of it. Let me just open up my thing just for reference. I already know how to do this, but just to be safe. And then right under that, we are going to make another empty game object. We're just going to call this one actually moving platform. I did forget, but we should also reset our position just so we're at 0, 0 at all times. Next, we are going to make two sprite squares, 1 and 2. And then on this bottom one, we are going to set the position, the X position to 0.5. And then for the top one, we're going to do negative 0.5. Now we're going to change the sprite here. Let me actually move this so we can see this as I do the work. We're going to change the sprite here. Let's see, what do we got? Let's keep it with our snow theme. So we'll have one snow tile there and one there. Now you can make this as big as you want. I'm just doing this as like a very basic one. And next we're going to add a box collider 2D. And then we're just going to edit the collider to make it bigger. So if I scroll in, you'll see this green box appear. And we're just going to make it a little bit bigger on either side just so it fills in that square. All right. And once that's done, in our moving platform master, we're going to make two other empties. And we're going to call this one start position, as this is going to move between two set positions. And next one's going to be end position. Now to actually see these, we're going to click this little box up here right on top of the inspector. Click down, and then we're going to click this little circle right there. Now you see a red square appeared, but you know what? That's starting, so green square. And then at the end, we'll put the end circle, which would be red. And then we'll just move that to the side just so it'll already be moving once we get everything done. Yeah, that looks like everything's all set. So now let's just, in the moving platform, you can put this pretty much anywhere, but I just like putting it there. Actually, let's just put in the moving platform master just in case. So we're gonna, actually no, because this moves the actual object. So yeah, we're gonna be putting it here. So we're gonna make a new script called moving platform. Create a new script, create an add, and then open it up. All right, now to get started, we are going to add a few variables. So we're gonna start with a public transform. And we're going to call the first one starting position. And we're going to put a comma and do end position. Finally, we're going to add a Boolean variable called @end, which just means if it's at the end of the position, it's just going to switch to true. And then finally, a public float speed function. And we're just going to set it to 2, just as a very basic starter. Now, we don't need this. We don't need it. We can get rid of the start. And in the update now this is where the fun begins. We're going to do an if not, which is simplified by the exclamation @end. And it's going to be transform.position equals vector2 dot move towards. And then we're going to have our current, which is the transform.position, our target, which is the end position, and then we add .position, and then time.delta time times speed, so it can move correctly. Now, once that's done, that's actually pretty much how you move it. We're gonna have it now a part of the script that makes it go backwards. So it's just the same thing. Transform.position equals vector2 dot move towards, and then transform.position. And this time we're gonna put starting position dot position, and then time dot delta time times speed. All right, now to make sure, to have the code know it's at the specific positions, we're going to do if transform.position equals, or it has to be transform.position.x, just because we're looking on the x variable, starting position dot position dot x at end equals false. All right, and then we're going to do another else if. This is going to be for when it's going back. Position dot x equals end position dot x, and then at end equals to true. All right. So with that all done, we're going to go back into our script. And as you see now, we have multiple variables here. So we have our speed, our starting and end position. What I want you to do is drag in the start position game object we made, just drag it into the starting position for the transform, and the end in the end position. Now, if we click play, you can see our thing moves. Now, if we do jump onto it, you will see that like kind of moves without the player moving with it, which is fine for most games. So this part is totally optional. You can just totally ignore it and just have your player just have to follow along with the platform. But if we want the player to actually cling to it, we have to do this. So if we add, because now we actually have collisions onto our platforms, we add a private void on collision enter 2D, and it adds all that. Then we do if collision dot game object dot tag equals player. Now this will look for a tag that's going to be specifically put on the player, and then below we will put collision dot game object dot transform dot set parent, and then we're going to set it to the transform. Now what this will do, this will have it so once the player touches the platform, the player will be locked onto it, being set as a child of the actual platform as it moves along, just so the player doesn't fall off, and it just makes it for a bit better movement. And then to now have it so the player can stop being connected to it, we do the exact same thing, private void on collision, but this time exit 2D. And now we're going to do if, it's basically going to be the same thing. So if collision.gameObject.tag equals to the player. And then we just do collision.gameObject.transform.setParent, and we're going to set this one to null, just so it stops actually connecting to it. And with that, our moving platforms are in fact done. If we go onto it, go back, you can see the platform does still move back and forth. And if I fall right onto it, you do see that it still moves. Now that is because we didn't actually add the player tag. But if we add that, now this should work. I definitely didn't forget, I promise. So if I jump onto it, you see the player now moves with it. Ooh, it looks lovely. All right, now how I made this can be made dynamically. So say you move this end position up here, it now moves up, and we can jump on it, and just fall right down. Now to actually make this a prefab, what we're going to start off with doing, we're going to make a new folder in our project files called prefab, Open that up. And then all you want to do is click on Moving Platform Master and just drag it down into the projects. And voila, you have a prefab. And if we drag it onto the scene, we have another platform master. And we can also move this all around, so we can move it down there. And the platform moves. See, we got two beautiful moving platforms now. Now to add our coin object, what we want to do, we want to go to 2D, Sprite, Square. As you see, we have another blank square here. And this time we're going to add our coin icon. I should be able to just search coin. No. Where is it? It is somewhere here. Right there. So now we have our coin object here. We are going to add a box collider onto it. And then what we're going to do, we're going to set it to isTrigger. Now this makes it so you can go over it and you won't be stopped by going through it like regular collisions would. We're going to add another file or another script, and we're just going to call this coin. Now in the coin script, what we're going to be doing is, first off, getting rid of the start and update, as we do not need that. And we're going to do pretty much the same thing what we did with making sure our movement is parented on the platforms, but instead of doing on collision enter, we're doing on trigger enter 2D. You can just autocomplete it like that, but if not, that's kind of how you write it all down. And then we're going to pretty much do the same thing with the if collision dot game object dot tag equals player. And this is perfect for if you need any collision that's player specific, which is pretty much what we're doing now. And we're just going to destroy game object. Save that. And we're just going to go back into our game. Click play. And now, if you go near the object, it deletes it. So we are going to make some changes to our movement script. This is just for if you need to make something very specific. We're going to specifically do this with our jump function. So if we go into the jump, which is right here, all we're going to do, we're going to copy out this line of script. Now this line of script, it still works. This is just another way you can actually add jump to the player, which honestly kind of makes it a little bit more fun. Just do rigid body dot add force, and we're just going to do new vector 2 0 because we don't want anything changing on the x, and jump force. Now with this very specific script, you can also make a jump pad of sorts, which can be really fun. So if we go back into our script, we will have to churn up our jump force quite a bit. I'm going to set it to 500 because anything less, it just doesn't register too much. But if you see, we still jump, but also our double jump kind of doesn't fully work. But this pretty much is still how you do it. It's kind of a bit of a better movement in some cases, but yeah, it's still decent. Alright, so from testing, this is the only way I could find out the best use for using translate instead of move towards in this. So I'll show you how it's done. For now, what we're going to do, we're just going to comment out all of this because we won't really need it. It's much shorter, but you can't do it as dynamically as you do otherwise. So what you do transform.translate, make sure it's capital T, and then you put in vector2.write, and then times time.delta time, and also times it by speed. And then below that, you'd want to put if transform.position .x is less than, or I think it's either less than or greater to, I always get those mixed up, to 10. And then you put transform.position equals new vector 2 -10, or whatever one you want to put it back to, and then transform.position.y. The reason this isn't as good is just because it only moves it to the right, and you'd kind of have to put specifically where you want it to go. Like if you want it to go up, you have to put vector2.up, and then you have to change all these. The way I did it is much easier. You just set points and it just does it for you. Alright, so heading back in the script, which you can see these points now are just, it doesn't matter. They'll always move to the right. And then eventually they will go back, well, they'll go to -10, which is over there. But yeah, that's pretty much how you do that. The best use for these, not for platforms, that's for sure, because you don't want the platform to just disappear. You kind of want it to go back. But yeah, that's one of the best uses I could find for using translate. We are going to add sound effects to our coins. So I added in the link in the description will be to the program I used, which is a web browser program to make like digitally sounding effects. So I'm just going to drag that into here. Usually you'd make a folder, which I'm actually going to do that real quick after I move these in here. You know, good file management, and also just to make things look much cleaner. We're going to make another folder, just call it sounds, or SFX. This just sounds better. Alright, so to get started, what we're going to have to do, you might think, why are you doing this? But it does kind of make sense, but it will probably have to be changed in the future. But for now, we're going to add a component onto the player, and the component we're going to add is an audio source. Going to add that, and then in the audio source, we are going to add our pickup coin. It's the only one in the thing, so just add it on there. Make sure that play on awake is unchecked, and as well, it's always best to just lower the volume. I always set it to 0.5 just because it's loud otherwise. And then back in our coin script, I never named this coin. Huh. Alright, and now back in our coin script, all we have to add is, let me just make a new line, collision.getComponent audio source. Now, if you do have multiple audio sources on the player, like for player sound effects, you will have to change this. Probably best thing to do would be calling the player script and then calling this specific audio source from that. But otherwise, this is pretty much what you do. You make sure it has play, and then it should work. If not, we will have to add a bit of a delay onto the destroy function. But there we go. And if we make our coin a prefab by just dragging it into the project folder, and just dragging them all across the scene, and we click play, now we have coins to pick up. What a lovely, lovely thing. Alright, and that does it for today's class. Thank you so much for joining me. Alright, so I did this after I recorded the actual episode. So to actually instantiate a prefab from while playing the game, I'm going to show you exactly how to do this now. I did forget to add that into the actual main project, but to do that, it is very simple. We're just going to make a very impromptu thing, but pretty much what you do is, let's first make we're going to do this public game object, and then we're going to name it prefab. And then in the actual, we'll do it in the start function, just so we can do this just one off. We're going to do instantiate prefab new vector. We'll do new vector 2. And then we're just going to put a position. You know what? Let's just be a bit funky with 10, 10. That should work, I hope. And then what you have to do at the end is add quaternion.identity. Now that just makes it so it just spawns at a neutral rotation. And yeah, that seems perfect. So then we're going to go back into our game. Click onto the player where now we have the game object we have to instantiate. And let's just create yeah, let's do something quick. Let's make a little square and make a little enemy, I guess. And we're just gonna call this enemy. He's a little squashed boy. We're gonna make this a prefab, and then just gonna drag this onto the player. Right there. And now, if we delete that, you see there's nothing on the screen right there. We're gonna click play. And if we go back here, if we go to 1010, which is right up there, you see a player or a little guy has spawned. And if I exit, he disappears. So pretty much instantiate. You can put it like as shooting a thing where it spawns a bullet out of a specific spot. You can do so much with it. It's so wonderful. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.